Hello everybody and welcome to VFR. Today we are doing a lazy GA flight in the JustFlight Piper Turbo Aero 3. Well, actually I think it's the 4 because we have the T-tail. So we're going to be taking just a quick flight down from here at Centennial Airport just south of Denver to Colorado Springs, KCOS. And we're just going to try and practice a little bit with the Piper Aero. I just got this airplane on Black Friday deals. I've been really liking it so far. I just want to take it for a spin. We're going to practice just taking off out of Centennial here, flying a little bit of VFR, and then shooting an ILS approach into Colorado Springs. Then we'll just turn around and head on back here to Centennial. Should be about an hour worth of flying for the day as we fly around kind of Colorado. All right, so we're in our cold and dark Aero. Let's get set up. We're going to go chocks and tie downs away. We've got state saving on. I'm going with the GTN 750 today. This is going to be kind of my configuration for our Colorado airplane. Ignore the registration. We are going to be November 3023 kilo today. 3023 kilo. And the route's going to be very simple. We're going to be heading due south. And it should really be straight in based on the winds. We'll cut the ATIS and get this started. So first, weight and balance. Let's give ourselves, we'll say someone's in the right seat with us. Well, you know, let's just say we're going to carry 30 pounds of stuff in the back too. We'll give it a full tank. 38.5 gallons in each tank. And then we'll get set to go. So we've removed all our chocks and tie downs. We'll just check out the airplane real quick. Make sure that everything is removed. We're all set. We don't need to push back. Park brake has been set. Fuel selector, we'll keep it on the, we'll turn it to the left tank. Our master switch, we're going to turn battery and alternator. Get everything fired up. We'll turn anti-collision lights on. So aircraft comes to life. I'm going to program in our flight plan, and we'll get all set. All right, so let's go over the route real quick. We're going to depart out of Centennial to the south. We're going to go basically direct to waypoint Mogul, which is not the initial approach fix for the ILS and the runway 17. That's out here, out to the east a little bit. Well, we're just going to fly it VFR visually, direct and straight in. But we'll fly it visually, but we're going to use the ILS frequency, which is 109.1. We also have the BlackRock VOR tuned in 112.5. Which is BRK here on this map. So that'll give us a good idea of where we are relative to Colorado Springs. Wind is 170, about 5 knots. We'll check ATIS too, but so we should just be able to head south straight in. All right, so for engine start, we're going to go mixture. We're going to prop full rich, mixture full rich. We're going to turn on the fuel pump to low. We will check our propeller area, except for the guy right in front of us, and open up the throttle just a bit. Nice of the co-pilots close the door for us. And we'll come back on the throttle.
Centennial Airport information X-ray 1800 Zulu. Wind 122 at 7. Visibility 10. Sky condition clear. Temperature -2. Dew point 10. Altimeter 29.84. ILS runway 35 right and visual runway 35 left in use. Landing and departing runway 17 left and runway 17 right. VFR aircraft say direction of flight. All aircraft read back hold short instructions. Advise controller on initial contact. You have X-rayed.
All right. So just to brief the route one more time, we're going to come off of the runway 17 left. We're going to slightly bear left to head straight for Mogul. Now we need to be at 10,000 feet at Mogul to be on the glide slope. So we'll be climbing out fairly aggressively, about 6,000 feet right now, 5,800 feet here at Centennial. So we'll do a little bit of an aggressive climb out to get all set up for the ILS. At which point I've already got the radial tuned in. We'll be tracking 172 inbound. We'll pick up the ILS frequency, and yeah, then we'll just follow it down to the runway. I haven't done this before really in this airplane, so we're just this is just kind of a good practice flight, and it's something I'm trying to do more of, is practice and set specific goals, especially for GA flights like this, where it's a little bit simpler. You can kind of pick and choose some of the things that you want to focus on. Centennial traffic, Aero 3023 Kilo is taking runway 17 for a south departure, Centennial traffic. Alright, so we're lined up here. We will make sure that alternate air is closed. Engine instruments, we're looking good. We have the right altimeter. Mixture is full rich prop, full forward. We are trimmed for takeoff. We're going to take off flaps 0 today. And flight controls are good. Transponder is going to go to altitude. And we'll turn on our lights too. They should have been on before we took the runway. Alright. I'm just going to bring the throttle up. I'm not trying to go into use full power, so I just want to set basically 40 inches of manifold pressure. It's really more like 3/4 power on the turbo aero. That's 60 knots. 65, we should start pulling back a little bit. And away we go. Gear can come up. And we'll trim out for the climb. And away we go. So it's a pretty cool airport. One of the busiest general aviation airports in the United States. Very, very big for a GA airport. We're not using the proper towered procedures because it's kind of a lazy Monday night. But Denver is off behind us. Right behind that big cloud, so we're going to have to try and avoid that. And then, of course, you got the Rocky Mountains off to our right. So we'll go ahead and come left a little bit. And keep climbing. Remember, we need to be at 10,000 feet, if possible. Alright, so we're well on our way. We are heading out to Mogal now. Trying to avoid these clouds the best we can. So we may have to climb through a little bit. Climbing through 8,700 feet. Now again, today we're not doing anything too crazy, too special, too out of this world, even interesting. It's really just a short flight between one fairly large general aviation airport to another, again, fairly large airport. But I really like these flights, especially after a long day. It's nice for me, and it helps me do a little better in some of these airplanes, to pick something I'm going to work on and then try and work on it. I find that to be fairly rewarding, especially in as open-ended a sim as Microsoft Flight Simulator. There's, I think, an underrated fun in practicing. I think it actually comes more naturally to some of the combat flight simulators, where there's a lot of systems to learn. You might spend a night learning how to drop guided bombs or something like that. That's not as obvious or apparent in some of the I think in some of the civilian flight simulator areas, especially Microsoft Flight Simulator. I don't think it comes as naturally because you don't have all these different functions that are kind of discrete. You're really practicing more of being a better pilot, which is, again, for someone who's not trained to be a pilot, a little bit intimidating. So I make no pretense about being perfect. I really just want to figure out how this works a little bit better. And then, you know, maybe we can do some more challenging. I'd love to do some full IFR flights, especially in the Aero, because I'm really enjoying this as a kind of deeper general aviation airplane. I mean, the differences between something like this and the Mooney are subtle, but they are there, and it does make a big difference. I mean, it feels a lot more, I don't know, it feels a lot more real from what little time I've spent in small single-engine airplanes. Alright, that's 10,000 feet. We can go ahead and level off. And we'll trim it out for level flight. So again, if you're ever in a rut, if you just don't know what you want to do, sometimes I find that is where I'm at. I don't really want to know where I want to fly. I don't have any great routes planned out. So pick a simple flight. It doesn't have to be the most exciting flight in the world. It doesn't have to be some big destination. Fly to a couple of airports that you've never been to, or fly to a couple that you have been to. And pick something on your airplane that you're going to learn how to do and practice and get right. And sometimes it's not, you know, you don't even have to do ILS approaches. It doesn't have to be anything fancy like that. It could really just be rolling out cleanly into a turn if you have to change heading, right? Pick a heading and roll out and predict and get a feel for your airplane to be able to roll out and not have to, you know, correct back to the right or anything. Those kind of basic maneuvers. It's, again, if you're looking for something a little bit quieter, a little less involved than a big complex flight plan. The other flight plan that I was thinking about doing tonight was going up to Aspen from Centennial. But it was showing low visibility in Aspen relatively. And, you know, I was just tired. I wanted to fly something a little bit more relaxing. And the real point is to learn about the Aero, not really to test my skills as a pilot. Learn how this plane flies. Because, again, I really enjoy this plane. So, yeah, not every flight has to be a supreme test of your aviation skills. Sometimes it's nice to just focus on one thing and then fly it. So if we look here, we are about, I'm reading this red, 10 miles from Mogal, at which point we will be starting to try to pick up the glide slope. In fact, we can just go ahead and click that over into the right mode. I'm not using any autopilot anything either. This is a fairly short flight. And I've changed my trim to be a trim wheel, and it just makes a huge difference. I use a Gladiator NXT HOTAS stick, and just that, using one of the encoders as a trim wheel, it does make a big difference in airplanes like this. And we can start looking out the window for the city of Colorado Springs. Even zoom in a little bit here on the 750. And again, we're just hand flying this approach. Nothing too crazy. Alright, so we are now on the approach. We have the ILS more or less lined up. We're still a little bit below the glide slope. We're now at about 9,600 feet. And 14 miles from the localizer, we need to be at 9,000 feet. So we'll still maintain our speed. We'll start coming back on the throttle a little bit. Just trying to stay on track. Have a little bit of wind. It's not too bad. That's 9,500. We're 16 miles away. I can't quite see the airport. A little bit of fog in front of us, but it should be directly off our nose. Again, about 14 miles. So that's 9,200 feet. Coming up on 14 miles. The next step is 8,700 feet at 10 miles. At that point, we'll be on the 3-degree glide slope. Alright, so we got a 7-mile final. Speed's looking okay. We're down at 100 knots thereabout. Glide slope's starting to come in. It's showing a little below still. But all in all, we're looking okay. This is a nice long approach. Helpful if you get something wrong. We'll just rest the descent just a little bit, let the glide slope catch up. And that's looking pretty good. So we just want to keep it just about like that. Let me bring gear down. I'm not going to go flaps just yet. We'll give it a little bit more power so we don't fall too far behind the glide slope. And just keeping the speed somewhere around 100. And once we get within 3 miles, we'll go down to about 80. And then we're a little off. Showing we're a little off to the left, or a little off to the right, so we'll come left a little bit. And we will go ahead and get first notches of flaps in. Oh, and there's some icing. Yeah, so we're landing just in time. So we got the runway in sight. Airplane is not behaving well because it's icing over. And now we got the PAP. So we're a bit high, keeping an eye on the ILS. Back on the power a little bit and let it catch up. And we'll add the last knock of flaps and that'll help. So I'm just a little too focused on really what's happening outside. We're pretty well above the glide slope, but I got the runway in sight, so we're okay. We're a little off to the left. And the ice is getting bad now. Power off. We'll go ahead and exit this taxiway. It's quite the contrast between the cockpit and the external view. Alright, so we barely survived that one. That was supposed to be a nice, quiet flight into Colorado Springs, and it ended up not being one. We have frozen over. So, a lesson. Do for what you should not do. Be careful flying in Colorado in the winter. We're going to taxi on up, and then I think we're staying here for a little bit. Alright, so we made it here to Colorado Springs. That low level of fog right over there is what killed us on final. Didn't really get to practice what I wanted to practice, which was just a pure ILS approach. But hey, that's where we're flying with live weather, and yeah, that ice really snuck up on me. Wasn't expecting that until it started to handle funny. So, an impromptu guide into how not to handle icing in the Piper Arrow. Good fun either way, and it's, you know, these kinds of flights are nice to do every now and then, just to get some flight time under your belt. So, with that, thanks for watching, everybody. We found out a little bit about why people fly in Florida, and yeah, it was just good fun. So, stay tuned for more content, more stuff from the Arrow, and a lot of other stuff coming down the pike. We're really excited for what's coming down in the next couple months. That's it for VFR today, everybody. As always, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, ideas, throw them in the comments section below. Take it easy, y'all.